Rain pelted against the windshield as Jake Carter maneuvered his aging sedan down the slick, empty road. The wipers worked furiously, smearing water across the glass in a battle they were losing. He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his tired face. It had been a long shift, and he was eager to get home. The last delivery had taken him far outside his usual route, and now all he wanted was a hot shower and sleep. The road stretched ahead, silent and unwelcoming. He nearly missed the tiny form curled up on the passenger seat. A startled curse escaped his lips as he jolted in his seat. His foot hovered over the brake before logic caught up. How had it gotten in? He had locked his car before picking up the final package. Yet there it was, a shivering, golden-furred puppy, no larger than a loaf of bread, its wide, dark eyes staring up at him with a silent plea. His pulse pounded. He had no time for a stray. Shaking his head, he reached over to scoop it up, intending to set it outside. The puppy flinched, curling tighter into the seat. A whimper escaped its small body, one so pitiful it stopped Jake cold. Something was off. The pup's fur was damp, but it wasn't just from the rain. There was a faint, metallic tang in the air. Blood. Not fresh, but unmistakable. He swallowed hard and examined the pup more closely. No visible wounds. No collar. Just a tiny creature trembling in fear. His first instinct was to take it to shelter or vet, but the late hour complicated things. He could leave it at the next gas station. Someone else could take care of it. Yet, as if sensing his thoughts, the puppy pressed against his side, small paws gripping at his jacket. His resolve wavered. Sighing, he pulled back onto the road, the dog settling into his lap, still shaking but no longer struggling. Minutes passed in silence. Then the puppy shifted, ears perking up, eyes fixed on the floor beneath the passenger seat. It let out a low whine, then scratched at the upholstery, its tiny claws barely making a sound but setting Jake's nerves on edge. "What is it?" he murmured, glancing down. He tapped the brakes, slowing the car as the dog's distress escalated. It pawed frantically now, whining louder. His skin prickled with unease. With a sharp breath, he pulled onto the gravel shoulder, threw the car into park, and reached down, feeling blindly under the seat. His fingers brushed against something soft, something that didn't belong. His breath hitched, heart pounding. He grasped the object and pulled it into view. A child's shoelace, darkened with what looked like dried blood. Jake stared at it, a chill seeping into his bones. His mind raced. He had picked up his last package from a roadside cafe that looked abandoned. Could this be connected? The puppy whined again, nudging the lace with its nose before looking up at him with wide, desperate eyes. A warning, or a plea. His throat tightened. He was bone-weary. Every fiber of his being screaming for him to drop this, to go home. But the weight of the tiny dog against his chest, the silent urgency in its gaze, made his next decision for him. He turned the car around and headed back the way he came. The night pressing around him, the rain relentless. Each mile back toward the cafe felt heavier than the last, his grip on the wheel tightening with every second. The puppy had gone quiet, curled in his lap, its warmth seeping through his jacket. When the building finally loomed ahead, his headlights washed over the crumbling facade. He pulled into the lot and killed the engine. Silence pressed in, save for the steady drumming of rain on the roof. The puppy stiffened. Jake swallowed hard and reached for the door handle. The air outside was thick with damp earth and something else, something acrid and wrong. The cafe door was slightly ajar. His pulse kicked up. Had it been like that before? He couldn't be sure. He had barely glanced at the place when picking up the package earlier. The puppy let out a low, urgent whimper. He took a cautious step forward, the gravel crunching beneath his boots. He should call someone, police, animal control, anyone who could make sense of this. But some unseen force kept pulling him in, the same force that had made him turn back in the first place. Pushing the door open, he stepped inside. The scent of stale grease and mildew clung to the air. The place had been closed for a long time, yet the tables and chairs were still arranged as if waiting for customers who would never come. A flickering light buzzed in the corner, casting long shadows across the tile floor. The puppy wriggled in his arms, then leapt down, trotting forward with purpose. "Hey, wait!" he hissed, but the little creature ignored him, heading straight toward the counter. Jake followed, every nerve on edge. Then he saw it. Near a toppled chair in the corner, something lay half hidden beneath a dust-coated tablecloth. He crouched down, pulse hammering. With careful hands, he pulled the cloth aside. A child's backpack. Small, pink, with a name tag sewn onto the strap. Lily J. The breath whooshed from his lungs. A scuffing noise came from the back room. His head snapped up, every muscle locking into place. The puppy froze beside him, ears perked, body tense. Then another sound, a faint, rhythmic scratching, coming from behind the storage door. Jake's breath came shallow as he crept toward the storage room door, every nerve in his body telling him to turn around. The rhythmic scratching on the other side was faint but persistent, like something or someone tried to make their presence known without drawing too much attention. The puppy was silent now, pressed close to his ankle, ears perked, body rigid. The handle was ice-cold beneath his palm. He hesitated, his mind racing through all the logical reasons someone could be in there, but none made sense. The cafe was abandoned. There should be no one inside. Gathering himself, he pushed the door open. The hinges groaned in protest, revealing a small, dimly lit storage space lined with rusting metal shelves. Stacks of dusty supplies cluttered the floor, but Jake's eyes locked onto a single, undeniable detail. The trapdoor in the corner, slightly ajar. The scratching stopped. The silence was worse. Jake's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He glanced down at the puppy, half expecting it to flee, but the little dog stood its ground, staring at the trapdoor like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. A quiet whimper escaped it, barely audible but drenched in fear. Jake knelt, his fingers trembling as he reached for the wooden panel. He paused, listening, but the only sound was the rain tapping against the cafe's broken windows. With one final breath, he lifted the trapdoor. A pair of terrified eyes stared up at him. Jake reared back, his breath catching. A girl, no older than 6 or 7, crouched in the shallow space beneath the floor. Her small frame was wrapped in a tattered hoodie, her face smeared with dirt. She clutched something tightly against her chest, her arms wrapped protectively around it. "Hey!" Jake whispered, forcing his voice to stay calm. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl didn't move. Her breathing was quick and shallow, her wide eyes darting between him and the puppy, who had edged closer and was sniffing the air. Jake carefully extended a hand. "My name's Jake. What's yours?" The girl didn't answer, just curled tighter into herself. Then, slowly, she uncurled one of her hands, revealing what she had been clutching. Jake's stomach twisted. It was the other end of the blood-stained shoelace. His brain scrambled to make sense of it. She was connected to whatever had happened here. But that meant, "Where's my brother?" The whisper was so soft, he almost thought he imagined it. Jake's chest clenched. "Your brother? Is he?" His eyes flicked back to the backpack he'd found. "Lily J. Is his name Ethan?" She gave the tiniest nod, tears welling in her eyes. The air in the storage room felt suffocating. Jake looked around frantically, as if expecting to see a boy materialize in the shadows. But there was nothing, just damp, rotting wood, and the unbearable weight of a truth he hadn't yet uncovered. Lily let out a shaky breath. "He told me to hide." Jake swallowed hard. Where was he going? Her lip trembled. "He said he'd come back for me." Jake sat back on his heels, the gravity of the situation crashing down on him. This wasn't just about a stray dog leading him to a mystery. There was a missing child, possibly hurt, possibly worse. The puppy let out a sharp yelp, startling both of them. It turned toward the cafe's front door, ears twitching. Someone was outside. Jake moved swiftly, lowering the trapdoor just enough to keep Lily hidden, but leaving a sliver open so she could breathe. He stood, backing away, his pulse hammering. Through the rain-blurred window, a shadow passed. Jake's hands curled into fists. He had no idea who it was or what they wanted, but instinct screamed that this was no coincidence. The abandoned cafe, the blood-stained shoelace, a terrified little girl hiding beneath the floor. Whoever had been here before wasn't finished yet. The puppy pressed against his leg, body tense. Then it did something unexpected. It growled, a deep, low sound that didn't belong in such a small creature. Jake had seconds to decide. He could run, take Lily and get out of here, but if he left now, he might never find Ethan. If Ethan was still alive, the doorknob rattled. Jake barely had time to react before the cafe door slammed open. A gust of rain-chilled air rushed inside, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and something more acrid, something that made his skin prickle with unease. His body moved before his mind could catch up, stepping in front of the trapdoor as if his presence alone could shield Lily from whatever had just entered. A figure loomed in the doorway, backlit by the dim glow of a flickering street lamp. Jake couldn't make out their face, only the outline of broad shoulders in a slow, deliberate way they stepped inside. Water dripped from their jacket, pooling onto the dusty tiles. The puppy at Jake's feet let out another growl, this one deeper, more insistent. The figure halted. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then a voice, low and measured, broke the silence. Didn't think anyone was still here. Jake forced himself to stay calm. Place looked abandoned. I was just passing through. A slow nod. The stranger's hand flexed at their side. That your dog? Jake hesitated, glancing down at the puppy. It was staring straight at the intruder, muscles tight, ears pinned back. He had no idea where the little dog had come from or why it had latched onto him, but at this moment, it felt like the only thing standing between him and whatever danger was creeping into the room. Yeah, Jake lied. Just picked him up. The strangers shifted, their boots scuffing against the floor. You should probably head out. Storm's getting worse. Jake didn't move. His instincts were screaming. Something about this man was wrong. He could feel it in the way his gut twisted, in the barely contained tension that radiated from the figure's stance. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the man's face for a split second. Jake's stomach dropped. A thin scar ran down the side of his cheek, disappearing beneath the collar of his soaked jacket. His eyes, dark, calculating, flickered toward the counter, where the dust had been disturbed, toward the corner, where the backpack still sat, half hidden by the tablecloth. He knew. The shift was almost imperceptible, but Jake saw it, the slight widening of his stance, the way his hand hovered near his pocket. A weapon. Jake's mind raced. He had no gun, no way to fight if it came down to it. His only advantage was that the man didn't know what he had found. Or who. A single sharp bark cut through the silence. The puppy, as if sensing the shift in tension, lunged forward, snarling. It was barely more than a blur of golden fur, but it was enough to throw the man off for half a second. Jake took it. He moved fast, grabbing the closest thing, an old metal coffee tin, and hurling it. It wasn't much, but it bought him the moment he needed. The stranger flinched, just as Jake lunged, shoving him back with all his strength. The man stumbled, catching himself against the counter, cursing. Jake didn't wait. He spun, yanking the trapdoor open. Lily run. The girl hesitated only for a moment before scrambling up, clutching something to her chest. Her wide eyes darted to the doorway, then to Jake. He grabbed her hand and bolted. The night swallowed them whole. Rain hammered down, soaking them instantly, but Jake didn't stop. The puppy kept pace, its tiny legs moving with frantic speed. Behind them, the cafe door crashed open again. Jake's car was too far. The woods. It was their only option. He veered left, pulling Lily with him, her small fingers clutching his as they plunged into the trees. Branches clawed at them, the ground slick and treacherous. A shout rang out behind them. Jake didn't look back. They ran until Jake's lungs burned, until Lily's breaths came in ragged gasps. He slowed only when he was sure they had put enough distance between them and the cafe. Lily clutched at his jacket, trembling. "Ethan!" Jake swallowed, his mind racing. They couldn't stop. Not yet. Then he remembered. The car. The puppy's obsession with the back seat. His chest tightened. He crouched, gripping Lily's shoulders. "Listen to me. I need to check something. Can you be brave for just a little longer?" Tears clung to her lashes, but she nodded, with a deep breath. Jake reached under the back seat, his fingers fumbling in the darkness. He felt fabric, then skin, cold. His heart stopped. "Ethan!" His voice cracked. He yanked, pulling the small limb body into the dim light. The boy wasn't moving. Lily let out a choked sob, dropping to her knees beside him. "Ethan, wake up!" Jake pressed his fingers to the boy's throat, praying, begging. A pulse. Weak, but there. Relief slammed into him, so hard he almost collapsed. He scooped Ethan into his arms, feeling the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Unconscious, but alive. The puppy whined, pressing against them. Sirens. Jake's head snapped up. Blue and red lights cut through the rain-soaked night, growing closer. Lily clung to her brother as tires skidded on wet pavement. A second later, doors flew open. Officers rushed toward them, voices sharp and urgent. Jake barely registered the blur of movement as paramedics took Ethan, as hands guided him and Lily toward the safety of a waiting vehicle. The questions came fast. How had he found them? What happened at the cafe? Did he know the man inside? Jake could barely process it, his body running on pure adrenaline. And then a voice. The dog. He turned. A paramedic was crouched by the puppy, checking it over. This little guy saved them, didn't he? Jake looked at the pup, who was now curled up against Lily's side, exhausted but watchful. The officer beside him nodded. "We've been searching for these kids for 2 days. No one knew where they were taken. If it weren't for you and this dog," he exhaled, shaking his head. "I don't want to think about it." Jake swallowed, looking down at the tiny creature. The puppy wagged its tail once, then curled up tighter, as if finally it could rest. Jake reached out, running a hand through its damp fur. "Yeah," he murmured. "Me neither."